Hey, welcome to the basement, and welcome to Hybrid in Writing, and for I think all of you, welcome to Bedford High School. You're a bulldog. I'm really excited that I get to be the one to lead you in your first ever Bedford High School class, and I'm excited that it's writing, a skill that you will use in every one of your classes, every one of your emails, and for the rest of your life. So, let's get started. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to go over this calendar, which, looking at it, tells you that the course has all been planned out, but it doesn't do it in language that immediately makes how the course works jump off the page. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to work my way through it. These pink days are these days this week where we meet 8 to 3 synchronously, meaning I post a video at 8 a.m., you watch it, you perform the activity. These videos are your lessons on how to write high school appropriate papers. The rest of the course after this week, you're just going to keep writing again, using feedback that you get on the writing that you do this week to get better, but this course is mostly about practice. It's expected that if you signed up for Hybrid in Writing, you feel like you're a self-motivated student already, and you'll be able to write just for the sake of it, with me being your cheerleader and your supporter on the side. It's mostly going to be your self-study that drives this class content. I should say that starting even today, we're going to make sure that we have some live Google Meet versions of teaching as well. There's 13 of us, 14 counting me. That's small enough that we can have an effective lesson live as well. I don't intend on taking every single one of my in-writing lessons and turning it into a video, just probably ones that I feel like are worth having on file so you can rewatch them, and by all means share them with parents. And if there's any questions that come up in my instruction, they can help try to understand what I'm talking about, since you can't immediately stop me, raise your hand, and ask me to re-explain. Of course, I'm always going to be available via email throughout your month with me. Okay, so after this first video that's sort of a practice of everything, do you understand the course that you're in? Do you know what you're in for this month? Do you know how to find this video first thing in the morning? Do you know how to do what this video tells you to do to show me that you're here and attending class? That's what this week is going to be about. And then right after this first activity, we're going to meet live. So I can actually talk to you a little face to face. This is completely different from the remote learning that we just stopped doing because you were with your teacher for 3 quarters and then transitioned to some sort of online classroom with teachers that you already knew. I don't know you, and I don't know how to replace that first day experience, so I want to talk to you in just a bit. But since this format is so important to the class, we started with this. Okay, so back to the calendar. So today, you're going to get to know the class. We're going to talk about the rules, the procedures, the grading, and then we're going to do some review on, do you know how to set up a paper in MLA format? Do you know how to write a basic argumentative paragraph? We're going to talk a little bit about expository writing. That's going to be a very brief assignment, and then we're going to get right into our first paper, which is a persuasive research paper. It's persuasive because you're going to take a side, you're going to make an argument. It's research because the way in which you support your argument is through information you find searching the high school databases and the larger internet. Tomorrow, you are going to get started on that research. We're going to talk about what peer editing looks like in this classroom. We will have peer editing in this classroom, even though it's remote. We will rely on Google Docs, share them with each other, and we're going to keep a log to show that you are participating in your peer edit. We're going to talk about how to make an argument effective, persuasive appeals. This will be good for you as a writer, and it's also just good for you as a student of the world, making sure that you understand when a message is convincing you why it is effective and allowing you to pierce through the persuasiveness and seek the logic of the argument itself. On Wednesday, we will convert from researching to outlining. Wednesday is going to be the big day because we talk about outlines, which if we really wanted to call this course by its proper name, it should be called In Outlines. Many of you are probably in this class because you think you can handle an accelerated pace, because in your past schooling experience, if a teacher gives you a writing assignment, you are able to just slam your fingers to the keys. Your thoughts come from your heart, your soul, your head, and it's not a big deal. You're not one of those students that struggles with getting started. You want to get it done, you get it done. Your spelling and grammar is effective enough. Your teacher says, nice job, and you move on. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's going to be really helpful for you. If you're that type of student, school is honestly, you just catered towards you. We're working all the time finding how to get to all students, but there's no way around the fact that good communication skills moves everyone who has them forward a little bit further. Organization is different. What happens when the question that you're being asked isn't one that can come off the top of your head? What happens when you actually have to string together several thoughts in support of one larger thought? Can you guarantee that the last paragraph of your essay is talking about the same thing as your first paragraph of your essay? This is where the outline comes in. You make a plan. And that's why we could really call this class In Outlines instead of In Writing, because you probably can write. And the step that is going to push back at you, to make you work hard, to make you tear out your hair because you don't know if you're doing it right because you don't have the finished essay in front of you, is the organization. So Wednesday is a big day because we're going to talk about how you have to do outlines in this class. You may never do them again because you may want to revert back to your I can write things at 4 a.m. before it's due. You might want to survive on that for the rest of your life. Hey, if that works for the rest of your life, great, but I need to show you one time. Maybe try organizing, maybe try planning. It's tough work, but it's where writing actually happens. After you have a plan, you can have more freedom to write with effective language, flowery language, paint your words with imagery, feeling, sensation. But if it's all in service of a bigger plan, your writing will be better. So, Wednesday, big day. On Thursday, you'll have to turn in a draft of what you outlined on Wednesday. So as I mentioned, there will be heavy homework this first week because your first paper draft will be due on this Thursday. Then we only have one day to convert the class to show you the other type of writing. You'll have all the process down, right? The way we approach an assignment, the way we organize and outline, drafting, peer editing. So you'll have the process down. Writing process will be down. And then we have to convert to the one other type of writing style, which is to not do research. It's actually the writing style that you'll do way more often in the high school, which is why I feel comfortable kind of putting it at the back, because you're just going to get so much more practice, is responding to an author's work, talking about what it is that an author is doing that communicates its message. We'll have one day to talk about approach, then run through the whole process again. Brainstorm, outline, draft, peer edit. At the end of the week, on Friday, this will be the first day that you are working on your own at home. There's going to be just a checkpoint to make sure that you're turning in the draft so that everyone has written a draft of 2 papers. And then what's going to happen is you'll see a choice right here. Submit draft of choice to peer editors. We back up and we see that you're only choosing one of the 2 papers that you're doing this first week, either the persuasive one or the literature one, to be turned in as a final draft. So while you're working on 2 essays this first week, because We rush through them so fast. You get to pick the one that you want me to look at for real. None of this other work in those 4 pink days do I really look at and give you grades on your writing. I will talk about your organization. I will talk about the strength of your notes or your annotations, that sort of thing. But I don't grade rough drafts. Rough drafts are mostly going to be checked with your peers. I grade final drafts, and so you'll be choosing which paper that you want to turn in. It will be your first paper grade, but also the first paper feedback that is extensive. So you'll have to make that choice. We'll talk more about that later. And then what happens is the course turns over to you. All right. So we see that we have a slight recovery week because the end of this week is July 4th, and so you are not going to work on those last 2 days, and you're not going to work on the first 2 days of the following week. So we're going to sort of slow down. That's the first thing. The second thing is those two weeks together cover trying Persuasive again. Right? So this Persuasive paper that you started up here, you try for the first time, maybe you turned in as a final draft. Your second try is these 2 weeks. Okay? And then here, the response to literature paper that you tried once, maybe you turned it as a final draft. Your second try is during this week. All right? And so those second papers, those are no longer a choice. So the Persuasive week, you're turning in a Persuasive paper. The response to literature week, you're turning in a response to literature paper. Let's just take a look at the last week and then go back. The last week, final exam week. Final exam will be given out the Friday before. Essentially, it's going to be write one more paper of your choice, run through the week, and turn that final exam in here. So you will be reading, or writing, I should say, 5 papers in final draft form. Either one of response to literature or Persuasive, and then 1 Persuasive, and then 1 response to literature, 1 final draft, final exam, and then, so I should say there's only 4 final drafts, 5 rough drafts, and a 2-paragraph expository essay. So that ends up matching what students do over the course of a semester. Okay, so those Persuasive weeks, the Persuasive week that is stretched out, and the response to literature week, in those weeks you run through the process again. Brainstorm, outline, peer edit, final draft. Do it again. Brainstorm, outline, peer edit, final draft. Final exam week, same thing. Only in the final exam week the peer edit becomes optional, but what I have found every year that I've done hybrid is everyone gets so good at working with each other, working on outlines, working on all that stuff, that everybody follows that process, because what this course really is about is learning the writing process and practicing it. All right, so that's your month at a glance. The very first thing that I want you to do, all right, so we're going to wrap up this first lesson in just a moment, and you're going to show me that you get to the end of the video and understand your next task, because you found this video hopefully in Classroom. So I'm going to switch over to Classroom. And you should be pretty familiar with Classroom because Chromebooks are very popular now in the district and other districts. If you're new, you hopefully have used one before, or at least some experimenting with Google Docs. This is the stream where things are updated live. This is normally not very useful, but it actually ends up being kind of useful in the hybrid format, because during those 3 hours that we're teaching synchronously, I may post something and it will show up in the stream. So if you see updates to the stream, sometimes it does make sense to check in here. It's also a handy spot because once we do get work, this upcoming box will have all the due dates, because I will be very methodical in making sure that everything has due dates and due time, so you can see the exact order that you should try to work in things. I also certainly recommend clicking to calendar view if you ever want to see your week at a glance in a way that makes a little bit more sense, instead of seeing it vertically the way it shows up in the stream or in classwork, but rather seeing it the way we normally process time. I do recommend the calendar view. So there's some tips there. This is our Meet link, so I have made an official link. When this gets clicked, it will take us to our Inception, because I'm recording a tutorial right now, but you can join the Meet, the classroom Meet. And so what I will do is I will have that on from 8 to 11 all 4 of our days. I will be sitting as though I was sitting in front of the class. You have a question? Come on up to the desk, which means that you join. There I am sitting. Oh, hey, how you doing? What's your question? Okay, head on back. And head on back here means that you close the Meet and go back to the assignment. This also is the room that we will use if we decide to have a live lesson. I'm going to close that to get out of the Inception there. And then the Classwork page is handy as well, because this organizes the whole class in our units. And I have a lot of stuff sort of drafted from years prior, ready to go. Right now you should only see assignment 1.1, and I do try to use numbers so you can be organized. When I talk on a Meet, if I say everyone should be in assignment 1.1, that makes it easy for you to find it no matter what I've decided to call it. And so you found this video here, assignment 1.2. Once I finish editing this, 1.2 is what it'll be called, Syllabus and Policy Review Quiz. So you'll have watched the intro video, and then as soon as you close the video, you're going to click on the Google form and complete this quiz. So what is this quiz? I emailed you a copy of the syllabus, frequently asked questions, and the course plan that I just went over at the beginning of this video. So did you read it? That's what this quiz is testing. Do you know the policies of hybrid that make it slightly different than a normal classroom? Do you know where you're expected to find your work? That sort of thing. So it's at the heart of what I'm doing here is I'm just practicing using Classroom. Finish watching a lesson, fill out the Google form. When you submit it, I'll know that you're here, because I'll see when your answer comes in and say, aha, that student got the directions. And then immediately after you submit this, you'll see in the closure of the form, it'll say, come join Mr. Ahnert in the Meet. And so I'll see you there. And once I see you there, it's like I've seen you on the other side of a digital obstacle course. And I'll know that you're ready to go, that you understand hybrid and writing. So I'm going to be monitoring things and maybe emailing home if I don't see somebody. And this is how I'm going to know that we're ready to go for synchronous learning this week. The other thing is it is sort of checking. I can only do these videos for so long. I am at 20 minutes right now. I'm never going to want to go more than 20 minutes. We've been allowed to go maybe 40, but it's just, you can't watch 40 minutes of any teacher teaching. It's just, the format is not good. So I really want to shut this down and let you get to work, and that we have this natural rhythm of you check in with me, get your lesson, do your work, and then we gather back together. That's the most effective way for us to use our 3 hours of time. Sometimes that's going to mean that I just send stuff. I say, here's assignment number 2 with the instructions, and I'm not going to read them to you, because that would require another video. Right? So I could do the next assignment that's after this one, since we have 3 hours to work with this morning, but I'd be stretching into 30 minutes of video teaching. It's just not effective. So you need to think, am I ready to take this type of class? So I really want you to give it your sort of gut, like, how ready am I based on the emails that I read? If you have to make guesses here, make guesses. I will catch you. There's safety nets. So the other thing that you have to remember is we have to trust you a little bit here. You could go back to the email that I sent and you could find the answer to all these questions, but then that wouldn't really be the spirit of the check. The check is, how ready were you? If you find that you can guess your way through some of this and that you remembered it because you were able to have a conversation with your mom or dad or crazy Uncle Louie, whoever it is that you talk to about your schoolwork, and then you know, like, this is going to work. Like, I have a pretty good system in place already, so do that check, honestly. If you totally flubbed, then you need to see what not reading the email did. You need to see the effect of that. So don't try to fix it by going and reading the syllabus and the course plan. Now, do your best, and I've got you on the other side. All right. So you'll see that the due time for this quiz is actually 8:45. So that gives you only about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, because by the time you find this video, watch it all the way to its end and try to take the quiz, we'll be almost at our first hour together. But that's why I look forward to seeing you right after this in the Google Meet, and we'll be able to have our first real meeting. But if you've made it to the end of this video, you're very close to the end of your digital obstacle course. You just have to take this Google form and find me in the Google Meet, and you'll have made it, and the class really will be underway. I can't wait till we get to the actual writing part. All right? So I'll see you in just under an hour. Good luck.